Well, welcome to our 552nd sub-prediction and our 38th extension to that sub-prediction and our second attempt at the 38th extension to the 552nd sub-prediction. For the second and third fire signs of 1 Kings 18. As normal, we think we've got it right this time. The reasons being that there are 12 baskets of fragments of food left over from the feeding of the 5,000. And they count from the end of the Watchtower as the true church, which is based on a physical date, 2005 ER 14, which is the third Laodicean Passover that they chose not to attend, denying Jesus 3 times in that night. In this night you shall deny me 3 times. And also because it's 347 days of 1 Kings 18, the majority of the prophets of Baal over Team Jehovah, which consisted of 100 prophets of Jehovah plus Obadiah plus me plus the attendant, from before when the contest began, which was me writing a letter, 2006 ER1. So you count 12 baskets of fragments, and a basket is pre-made, so Tishri 1 year, or Nisan 1 year, because Joseph interpreted a basket to be a day in a dream of the chief of the bakers, and the Bible takes a day for a year in Numbers 14 and in Ezekiel 4, which is telling you what the code is. So we can take a basket for a year, and these were the leftovers after they finished with the 5 loaves. That's the food of the first 5 presidents of the Watchtower. And so the latest they can run from would be Tishri 1 2005 to Tishri 1 2017. And there were 12 filled baskets. So there could be a 13th unfilled basket, which would run to 2018 Tishri 1, but not quite that far because it wasn't filled. Today is Elul the 21st, and so we're 9 days away from the end of Elul, and so all of the 1NC reserves have to stop being fed by 9 days' time. And in fact, they have already all stopped being fed by the Watchtower because they've all joined Laodicea, if I'm not mistaken, because there's been a Passover, the final Passover for the 1NC reserves was Elul 14. If it was to be Tishri 14, they'd still be being fed by the Watchtower, which they aren't. So that's a proof that the last Passover of the Watchtower is Elul 14, in order that all the 1NC reserves who have to be passed over have in fact been passed over and left the Watchtower and joined the Passover house, which is Laodicea. So Laodicea is a pretty big church now, if we're not mistaken, with 6,000 1NC reserves in it, and goodness knows how many other people, maybe 75,000 of Esther wanting to be in it at least, Esther 9. So there's one reason. Another reason is that we've got plenty of proofs that the whole thing ends 2019, and you've got to have a time at the end, which would take you from 2018 to 2019. Another proof is that the 11 prophetic times of Abraham's sacrifice, which is 3960 years, a day for a year in 11 years, which is 3960 days, runs from 1943 Nisan 14 to 2018 Nisan 14, and that's when Abraham has to start inheriting the kingdom, but Abraham is in fact Laodicea, who are non-Adamic Abrahamic. So they have the Laodicean Passover, Nisan 14 and ER 14, and that runs into the Watchtower Passovers, making up the 5 fingers of the hand of the chief of the cupbearers, who then pass the cup to Pharaoh's hand for the next 5 Passovers, which are Nisan, ER, Sivan, Tammuz, Ab 2019. So there's another proof of it. Then we have Mike's dream, which is a sort of physical proof. His dream was actually that he saw this bus blowing up on a bridge crossing a river when he was flying over it, and he saw a calendar flicking through the pages of August in quick succession. I kind of ignored those words, in quick succession. In quick succession means it's not stopping in August. If it was slowly or slowing down these pages, then it would stop in August. But it was in quick succession, which means he's flicking through the whole of August. So you get a fire sign in September. And that's where we are now, just. And we're predicting the fire signs for Elul 24, which is this weekend, which is September 7, 8, Friday, Saturday. That's the second fire sign. And then the third fire sign is Friday, Saturday, Sunday, which is Elul 24, 25, which is September 7, 8, 9. And these are either the 7th Sabbath of, or the Pentecost itself, the 80th Assyrian weekly Sabbath counted Pentecost from 2006 Sivan 12, which is our first no-show prediction. So the first prediction we made We're now on the second version of the 38th extension of the 552nd sub-prediction, but the very first prediction we made, I say 552nd sub-prediction, is 552nd prediction or sub-prediction. We have 404 predictions and a further 148 sub-predictions. But the first prediction was for 2006, Sivan 12. So if you count 80 weekly Sabbath counted Pentecost, which is 79 times 56 plus 50, but it's 4,000 weekly Sabbath days, you then get to Elul 25 this year, which is this weekend. Now, 80 Pentecost is 4,000 days, which is 10 times 400, and there were 400 prophets of Asherah at this contest, and I suppose they test God 10 times, which was Numbers 14. 400 prophets testing him 10 times gives you 4,000 days. Although I couldn't see that. I don't know how you're supposed to work that out really, but it seems to fit now with hindsight, if that's correct. So that's when we're predicting it, and my extreme indicates September, because you flick through August quickly, but it doesn't say you flick through September quickly. So the implication is that you stop flicking in September, and that's when this bus gets blown up on this bridge with the red lights on top, which we think is the Dartford Bridge, because Dartford is the nearest part of the Thames to the highest point of Kent, which is Ide Hill. And Elijah went to the top of Mount Carmel, meaning garden land, and did a mushroom and told his attendant, go and look for a rising mushroom cloud. And the garden land in England is Kent. In America it's New Jersey. In Israel it's Mount Carmel, where the first fire sign occurred, which was the biggest fire in modern Israel's history, on 2010 Egypt of 21. But let's return to this Passover. That's really why I am, as usual, am convinced we must have it right. The Passovers have to occur. God has to rescue his people from slavery. He has a history of doing that at a Passover. It has to be this year, and this is the last possible date. Elul 14 was the last possible date. And it will be followed by cakes, which is a festival of escape. And the idea is you bake unfermented cakes because you're running so fast you haven't got time to wait for a cake to rise. So you don't bother with a risen cake, you get a flat cake. And the running continues till Elul 21, which is today. And they don't run on Elul 22, they arrive instead at Sukkoth, meaning booths. Now this church is 2NC Church, and our main festival is booths. The 2NC festival occurs during booths. Well, it occurs actually on the solemn assembly at the end of booths. Whereas the 1NC occurs at the Passover before the beginning of cakes, or on the first day of cakes. I mean, cakes is a 7-day festival preceded by the Passover. Booths is a 7-day festival succeeded by the 2NC celebration, the Passover being the 1NC celebration. It's all symmetric about the midpoint between cakes and booths. So, we represent Sukkoth, and they don't run on the 22nd, they run on the 21st, so they should arrive here, the first Exodites, or Exodes, or whatever they're called, Exoduses, the first ones who are exiting the watchtower, the two spies, should arrive here at the end, I suppose, of today, which is sunset, this Hebrew day, which is sunset tomorrow, which is, what's the day, is it Tuesday? Tomorrow Wednesday, yeah, Sunset Wednesday. Now the great thing about arriving Sunset Wednesday on the 21st is that they would then spend 3 days in the heart of the earth here, to the 24th, when the fire sign occurs. Now, what it says in Joshua 2:23 is that these two spies hide for 3 days in the mountain, and they sit for 3 days in the mountain, which are two different operations, and they occur in two different mountains. And then it says in Jonah, and Jesus repeated this to show it had a greater meaning. Not that it wouldn't have had one if he hadn't repeated it, but to show how significant the greater meaning was. He said, just as Jonah was in the belly of the giant fish 3 days and 3 nights, so the Son of Man will be in the heart of the earth 3 days and 3 nights. The 3 nights are the 3 Passover nights. When Jonah, who is the apostle to the 6001 NC reserves, who are presently in Laodicea but all have to join Zoa, when he was in the heart of the earth, baptizing all these 1NC reserves, that's the Laodicean earth. And he sat in judgment of these guys, determining whether or not they could be baptized based on whether they were spiritual virgins. But they have to be a spiritual virgin, they have to not have defiled themselves with women, which means they can't have illegitimate kids. And they can't have joined a false church after having been sanctified. So he applied all those criteria, and he was in the heart of the earth doing that for 3 nights. And those are the 3 nights of Jonah in the heart of the earth. But then he spends 3 days in the heart of the earth, this time in the heart of the earth of this church, Zoa. And that's LO 21 to 24, we understand. So that's Jonah's 3 nights and 3 days in the heart of the earth. There's a few other cute reasons. My favourite is 171 months of the testing God. If you do the sentence count of testing God, all those people who saw the signs in Egypt and in the wilderness and yet kept testing me these 10 times and did not listen to my voice. He actually says they will see the land about which I swore to their forefathers, but all those who derided me shall not. That counts 171 times, which are months from 2005 ER 14 to 2019 Ab 14, the last Passover, the end of Adam. So that's the whole period from the fall of the watchtower to the fall of Adam, the end of Adam, which is a cute one. Then another favourite of mine is the 1290 days of Daniel 12, which is doubled because from the time there's a removing of the constant feature and a placing of disgusting thing causing desolation, there'll be 1290 days. You count that, it's 2 things. Times 1290 is 2580, which is 7 years and 2 months. And that runs from the removal of the constant feature, which was 2012 Sivan 14, when we all died to Adam and therefore ceased to be priests. And God had no true priests for a while till we got reinstalled because we all died and therefore lost our appointments and installations. And you count 7 years and 2 months, you get to 2019 Ab 14, the end of Adam. And you know, what will be the end of these things is the question that Daniel asks. And then he's told, go towards the end. And the end is 2019 Ab 14, that's the end of Adam. That's the late 3rd Abrahamic Passover. So there's loads more proofs, but that's basically it. There must have been a Passover, we must now be in cakes. And they must stop running and reach Booths late on the 21st of Elul, so that they're not running anymore on the 22nd. And the 21st of Elul is today, Hebrew day, so we expect them to arrive by sunset Wednesday, September the 5th. And then we expect the signs over the weekend. Thanks very much.